Hi. The new Pledge of Allegiance that we heard on the video is by our minister in Atlanta, Reverend Dr. David Alt, who's been here to speak here. And I thought it appropriate to play today for a number of reasons, including that our new theme for the month is The Pathway of Roses, based on the book by the same title by Christian Larson, who was one of the most influential writers in this tradition that we are part of called New Thought, because he's got a lot to say about personal freedom and allegiance and the responsibility that each person has to pursue freedom for all inside of their own thinking process, inside of their own mentality, not only for their own lives, but for their family and for their circle of friends and for their nation. And he talks about it in terms of personal responsibility to create our world. It's a very strong theme throughout this book. Now, in 1912, over 100 years ago, he wrote something similar in tone to this new allegiance of Dr. David Alt. Christian Larson wrote The Optimist's Creed. And it's a personal pledge beginning with the words, promise yourself. And it goes like this: promise yourself to be so strong that nothing can disturb your peace of mind, to talk health, happiness, and prosperity to every person you meet, to make all your friends feel like there is something worthwhile in them. There's a worthwhile missing. To look at the sunny side of everything and make your optimism come true, to think only the best, to work only for the best, and to expect only the best. And I got this far in the creed, and I thought, we should personalize this and begin it with I. So I did that. I turned it around as a personal promise, and I invite you to read it with me. I promise myself to be so strong that nothing can disturb my peace of mind, to talk health, happiness, and prosperity to every person I meet, to make all my friends feel that there is something worthwhile in them, to look at the sunny side of everything and make my optimism come true, to think only the best, to work only for the best, and to expect only the best, to be just as enthusiastic about the success of others as I am about my own, to forget the mistakes of the past and press on to the greater achievements of the future, to wear a cheerful countenance at all times and give every living creature I meet a smile, to give so much time to the improvement of myself that I have no time to criticize others, to be too large for worry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to permit the presence of trouble. And the Optimist International Society adopted this as their creed up to this point. It actually goes on. There are two more points, and they are this: promise yourself to think well of yourself and to proclaim this fact to the world, not in loud words, but in great deeds. And then the last one is, and promise yourself to live in faith that the whole world is on your side so long as you are true to the best that is in you. And I read that and I went, wow, that's quite a tall order. All of that, right? Whew, who can live like that? I mean, it's so absolute, it's so cheerful. It's a little out of reach, I mean, and then I got to thinking, I thought, well, but you know what? What if that was the price of admission for freedom and happiness? Would I be willing to pay it? If that was the cost, would I be willing to pay it? And which of these am I not willing to pledge allegiance to? Oh. I was looking on YouTube for Dr. Alt's new Pledge of Allegiance when I wanted to play it for you. And that's where you can find it on YouTube. Just search for his name, Dr. David Alt, New Pledge of Allegiance. Comes right up. And right there in the comments section, one of the most recent comments, some person put in the comments there, what a load of bleep. No, who can live like that, he wrote. No one. And I went, I totally understand where he's coming from. Because don't you feel like that sometimes? It's so darn cheerful. Oh, I can't do this. And on the other hand, that's the whole purpose of a vision, to take us up. I mean, not to look down to how things are already. The whole idea of a vision is to lift us up, to stretch us up into the possibility so we can get excited about life. I mean, what use would a vision be if it's simply acknowledged things as they are? I promise not to disturb myself. I promise to be friendly only to those who deserve it. I promise to be happy when things are going well. I promise to trust when it is earned. I promise to hold on to the past until amends are made, sincerely. I promise to properly point out where others can improve themselves. See, I mean, that use of my mind, which is available to me, doesn't typically lead to freedom. It just stays the same. It's more of what is already present. And I've learned I've got to stretch myself. I've got to stretch where I'm looking. I've got to stretch up. I have to look beyond what is already available to me. I've got to get excited about my life. I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if it was part of our 4th of July tradition for each one of us to write a new Pledge of Allegiance, to develop a new set of promises for ourselves, to help move up and on, to help us personally, individually, to get excited about our own lives and the possibility of life on the planet. Right from the book, The Pathway of Roses, are these words, and I invite you to read them with me. To give the world emancipation is the ruling desire of all minds that are spiritually awakened. And these minds should remember that overcoming evil with good is the only way. Forget the wrong that may appear in the outer world of things, and give all your thought to the great good that is inherent in all things. You thereby place in action the greatest emancipating power that the human race will ever know. You know, a side story, how this book came to us. It's in public domain because it was written so long ago. It's very well known. The author influenced most of the great thinkers of our tradition. And we found this publisher, Newtlist, Newtlist, Newtlist.com, who takes classics from the New Thought tradition in the public domain and then republishes them using gender-inclusive language and updating the language. Because, you know, in the 1920s and 30s, the turn of phrase can be a little hard to wrap your head around. And it's so refreshing to read it in this gender-neutral, modern language. So we contacted him, and he said, yeah, but I only publish ebooks. So we said, but we want books to hold in our hand. So this is his very first hard copy project. So I feel a little bit of pride that we participated in birthing this book. So now you can get a hard copy in Stepping Stone's bookstore. And you can also get the Kindle version online through Amazon. But do be sure to get the Newtlist edition, because reading the contemporary gender-inclusive language, I got to tell you, it just lifts the whole piece up. It makes it relevant and contemporary and delicious to read. And at the end of every chapter, he has a section in italics that is kind of like a meditation, like this one that's on the slide that I brought to you. This is at the end of the first chapter. And the way you can use this, well, there are a number of ways you can use it. For example, first thing in the morning, you can open your book, get up, get the coffee or tea or whatever it is you need, sit yourself upright so you don't fall back to sleep, and just turn to the end of the chapter and simply read the part in italics and sit and think about it. That's the easiest way to use it. Here's another way you can use it. Get up first thing in the morning, get your coffee or tea or whatever it is that you use, sit in a place where you're upright so you don't fall asleep, and get a pen and a journal and hand copy the piece by hand. Because you're going to have to slow down to do that, and it's going to let it go so much deeper in you. That's another way you can use it. Or here's another way you can use it. Get up first thing in the morning. Get the tea or the coffee or whatever it is that you get. Sit somewhere where you have access to your iPad, smartphone, or computer. And type the italic part into a status update in your Facebook page. And post it. And see what beautiful conversations you set in motion. That's a beautiful way to use it. Or here's another way you can use it. Get up first thing in the morning. Get your tea or your coffee or whatever it is that you have first thing in the morning. Sit upright in a place where you won't fall asleep. Read through it and look for the sentence that calls to you and commit it to memory. Oh, when you go through the day with something like that running through you, you might have to write it down on a Post-it note, something that you can refer to during the day. Oh, it takes residence in you. Beautiful. Oh, here's another way you can use it. Get up first thing in the morning, get the tea or coffee or whatever it is that you get. Sit in an upright position, get to the chapter in the italics, and then rewrite it in the first person. Restate it for you so that it becomes like an affirmation. For example, you might say, the ruling desire of my mind is to give freedom to the world. You can memorize that. You might say, I know that the only way for me to go is overcoming evil with good. Or you might say, I give my thought to the great good that is inherent in all things. Or you might say, I am using the greatest emancipating power the world will ever know. So way of keeping yourself on track. This is what we've been dealing with on Wednesday evenings. We started last Wednesday evening. Our Wednesday evenings, 7 p.m. It's an informal, almost like a classroom, but with prayer, meditation setting, and readings. And you get a free reading guide as well. It's open to anyone to come on Wednesday evenings as we go even further into the book each week. Now, one of the ideas we're noticing that's coming up over and over again in Christian Larson's writing is this idea of the freedom that we have in the big picture. In the grand scheme of things, there are places where we have freedom. For example, it appears that we have freedom to work with our perspective, our point of view, our attitude. It appears that we have freedom about how we're going to show up. Seems like there's some freedom there. In terms of making choices, there's definitely some freedom there. And the idea is to begin to work with those places where there is freedom rather than wasting all of our energy in trying to work in the area where we have none. For example, apparently I am free to show up in the world with any kind of attitude I want. But I can't control how you will. So let me bring my attention to that, where I can, and see if it's actually true. Can I actually change my perspective? Can I actually change my attitude and point of view when I walk in a room? Before I start asking other people to. See if it's possible. When I first discovered this idea that I might have some choice about how I walk into a room and how I show up, things started to shift for me dramatically. I started to understand the tremendous power that is released with something so small as a shift in perspective, a change in attitude. It was incredible. Oh, the freedom that came with it. See, because before I was of the mindset that this is just how I am. Take it or leave it. Something happened, and now I'm grumpy today. Deal with it. Afterwards, I learned that, no, what's more realistic is this is how I am right up until this moment, every second, right up until this moment. And right over here, there are infinite other ways. I didn't know that. Well, it wasn't easy. I had to learn how to do it. Oh, to turn, to shift, in a moment, On the other hand, I recognize that there have been times in my life, and maybe yours too, where it seems like there really aren't any choices. And it seems like, the script of life seems to have been written in advance by somebody else, and it can feel frustratingly like there is something seemingly controlling our lives. And I think that the number one controlling entity in our lives, the one that makes us sometimes feel like we're not free at all, is the group mind. We call it the consciousness of the human race. The awareness of the group, where there's thinking that is so common that nobody remembers to question it anymore. It's the set of shared ideas and attitudes that operate as a unifying force, which doesn't sound like such a bad thing if those unifying thoughts were stuff like the New Pledge of Allegiance or the Optimist's Creed or this that you see before you. Well, in the group mind, there are both good things and not so good things. And we get to ask the question of, what inside of the group mind think am I re-pledging my allegiance to over and over again? Take, for example, my family. There's both good and bad in the group mind of my family. Oh, some beautiful things I learned from my family. On one hand, I learned it's important to share because it shows that you care. I learned it's important to be kind because it shows that you're a loving human. It's important to be truthful and honest because that shows that you are a good person. And I've been able to look, which of those have I let take root in me? And are those things that I want to repledge my allegiance to? Because on the other hand, there are some not so helpful things that were swimming around the group think of my family. Like, for example, it's important to worry. It shows that you're realistic. It's important to hide your feelings. It shows that you're considerate. It's important to know what others need without you being told, because it shows that you truly love them. Do you have any of those? And there's more. But I get to, instead of just go with them, to have a look, which of them have taken root in me, and which of them do I want to reaffirm my allegiance to? Because group mind ideas, both good or bad, they can steal our freedom when we stop asking, how has this taken root in me? And we stop thinking about them. And we just continue to reaffirm our allegiance to ways of behaving in the world, and we don't even know why. Reaffirm allegiance to ideas like, for example, limitations that go with gender that everyone has accepted. Or reaffirm allegiance to being afraid of people who don't buy into the group mind thinking. Anybody that's stepping outside, to be afraid of them. Voltaire. Every person is the creature of the age in which they live. Very few are able to raise themselves above the ideas of their time. Ha! I say. We are able to, and we can raise ourselves above the ideas of our time if we would just do it. We can escape from conditioning. We can use our infinite creative imaginations to look up and to let that vision of the greater yet to be pull us forward into correct activities to pursue that and to get excited about our lives. We can. Oh, if you're like me, you might have to sit down and have a good chat, a good serious chat with yourself about it. I do. I have to sit myself down and ask the question, hey, Edward, do you have the courage to rise above the ideas of your time? I have to ask myself, do you think you can survive what other people will think of you? Because they will think of you. I have to ask myself, am I willing to step outside of the way it is and how the way it always has been and how the way it is predicted to be, to live in accordance with what I feel is my authentic expression and the call of my soul? Are you going to do that? Are you willing to choose your own life, or are you going to continue to take the life that has been scripted for you by group mind? And then the committee starts. Yeah, and they go, and I have to sit the whole committee down in my head. You know what I'm talking about? Sit them all down and continue the conversation, and say to them, look, even though everyone is panicked right now, does it mean I have to be? Even though everyone at work or in my family is pessimistic, does it mean I have to be? Even though everyone in my tribe did X by age X, does that mean it's what I have to do? Even though an event like X is devastating to almost anyone, does it have to be to me? And I have to keep the conversation alive, because that's one of the ways we can raise up the group mind, is to not just take it. See, we take responsibility for who is actually creating group mind. We are. With the direct use of our infinite creative imagination. That's the answer to the question. Who is creating the consciousness of the human race? We are. But what we talk about, what we dream for it, what we accept for it, who is setting the direction and the tone for our nation? We are. By how we talk about it, what we dream for it, what we accept for it, and that is something to get excited about. Because you see, it's not them. It's us. And you'll find that on page after page after page of the Pathway of Roses, the call to get excited about what infinite creative imagination and the power of your thought can do. And you'll find it also on our global vision statement on our website, www.cslsr.org, under the About Us section. You hear it referred to every Sunday. And it goes something like this, and I'll read it to you because it's very small. We envision a world that works for everyone, where all life is honored as expressions of the divine, where people live according to spiritual truth, where unity and connection is emphasized, where humanity awakens to its spiritual nature and rediscovers personal creative power, where we live as one global family, where kinship with all life prospers, where spiritual guidance is valued, where we are called to conscious social action, where people have enough food, homes, and a sense of belonging, where forgiveness is the norm, where there is peace, harmony, and justice for all, where there is a renewed emphasis on beauty, nature, creativity, art, and aesthetics, where resources are valued, cared for, and shared, where communities are meaningfully involved in service to the world. And that's something to get excited about. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm going to keep on lifting my vision up. And as I prepared this slide, I thought, we can do the same thing with this that we do with the Pathway of the Rose. We can personalize it, commit it to memory, meditate on it in the morning. So I brought it in the first person for you, and I invite you to read it with me. I envision a world that works for everyone. I honor all life as an expression of the divine. I live according to spiritual truth. I emphasize unity and connection. I use my personal creative power. I practice kinship with all life. I value spiritual guidance. I am called to conscious social action. I foster a sense of belonging for all. I practice forgiveness. I visualize peace, harmony, and justice for all. I emphasize beauty, nature, creativity, art, and aesthetics in my life. I value, care for, and share the resources of the planet. I commit to service to the world. And that's how we lift up the group mind and get excited about life. I invite you to join me in prayer. As we take a moment to breathe in, letting our eyes close, if you feel that's appropriate, we look within to acknowledge that idea of divinity, the Creator. I personally use words like the everywhere present mind of creation. I use that in particular so that I can remember that I am in that mind. I am in the energy of creation. I am inside of divinity, as we all are. And I take time to dwell on the idea of divinity being eternal, all-powerful, the source of everything, and to remember that each one of us are inheritors of this. This is where we come from, and our very own thought is our personal use of the creative mind of creation itself. So that I remember to keep lifting up my vision, abandoning the idea of how it should come to pass, but remembering to look high, to look cheerful, to look bright, and to let that vision pull me forward into right activity so that the energy of creation can translate itself into actions, inclinations, words, projects that I fulfill easily and effortlessly on this my path to contributing to a world that works for everyone. I feel blessed and excited about being alive in this world. I cherish the role that I have to play as being co-creator of a tremendous society. I look with gratitude into the heart of compassion that allows me to connect to people where they may be suffering and going without, so that it inspires me to be vibrantly connected and participating to the alleviation of suffering wherever I can. I give thanks for this time of prayer together, and I salute the spiritual laws that govern the universe. And what I mean by that is that right now as we pray this prayer together, that the reflective power of the universe is already establishing something in us and around us to make it all so. And so it is.